Hearing loss doesn't just affect how we hear. Whether you're navigating the world with hearing loss or communicating with someone who is, I have some strategies that are going to be very helpful, whether you're the person with the hearing loss or whether you're the person communicating with somebody who has hearing loss. And it's important to know who's who. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you are constantly thinking or sometimes saying out loud, "Oh, I wish they'd stop mumbling"? It is very frustrating when you're trying to have a conversation or listen to somebody and you just think they're mumbling because you can't hear everything that they're saying. Well, if you find that a lot of people around you are mumbling, my friend, this is a hard message to hear. It may not be them, it may be you. I know that is a hard message to hear, and I am talking from experience. I have had hearing loss for many, many years and have worn hearing aids for several years. It has become top of mind for me this week because I had a little situation for the first time ever when I since I've been using hearing aids that one of my hearing aids broke unexpectedly. And so I'm going to be without it for a week to 2 weeks, which is frightening for me. And it just brought up a whole lot of reminders about what life was like before I had these hearing aids to help me hear better. So let's get into the tips. The first one is, I think, no surprise to anybody. Face the person when you're talking to them. I will always remember the first time I realized how important it is to see the person you're communicating with. And it was when I went for my first hearing test many, many, many years ago. And I was with the audiologist and he was going through the like repeat these words after me and I was doing them, and the only reason I was at that appointment is because a few people told me I should have my hearing checked. And so I went into the appointment feeling a bit cranky and defensive, and I thought I was doing great in it. And then partway through the test, as the audiologist was getting me to repeat words, he put up a sheet of paper in front of his mouth, and so I couldn't see his mouth or his lips. And so when I couldn't see his mouth or his lips, my first response was, "How rude. I can't even hear what he's saying because he's trying to like trick me or whatever." No, he's just trying to see how much I'm actually taking in by seeing and lip reading instead of actually hearing. So when you're communicating with somebody who has a hearing loss, face them face on. Some people may ask you to sit to one particular side of them if one side of their if they hear better out of one ear or the other. So try to position yourself in the most optimal position for the person to hear you well. Okay, tip number two. I don't know if this will be a surprise, but this has been a bit of a contentious issue over the years in our household. If the person with the hearing loss, in my situation, me, says, I didn't hear what you said. Pardon me. Can you repeat that? Whatever they say, it doesn't mean you have to yell for them to hear you. And actually, raising your voice and yelling, thinking that you're helping the person, just creates more frustration and does not help anybody in that situation. So if somebody is repeatedly saying, "Pardon me, can you repeat that?" One of the best things I think to do is just slow your speech down, speak very clearly, try to articulate your sounds as well as you can, but you don't have to yell. So if someone says, "Pardon me," you don't have to say, "I said." You can say, "I said," and try to just articulate the sounds of the words so that the person can hear. And no need to get cranky. And this is not the best thing to practice with spouses because we tend to be have fewer filters with one another, and so it can create some unnecessary tension. And it is important for both parties to know, the hearing and the person who is challenged with hearing, to know what works best for the communication overall. So another tip, and I so appreciate when other people do this to me. I've never hidden the fact that I have hearing issues. I've been retired for a couple of years, but even during all my working years, people knew that I had hearing issues and knew that I had hearing aids. And so people would sometimes, if I'd be in a meeting, they would check in with me to say, "Is this your best side? Is it best for me to sit here? Or is it better for me to sit over there?" And that is just, I don't know, that just is so helpful. One, it's nice to know that people are trying to set you up for success with your hearing. And it also allows you to make some big changes. We have gone in the past, would go into many meetings that we would rearrange how people were sitting basically to accommodate my hearing. And I often, like, sometimes in the beginning I'd feel a little odd about that, but then I just started to realize and tell myself that this isn't just helping me. This is helpful for everyone because then other people don't have to repeat themselves and it saves energy all across the board. A little caring goes a long way. And don't make a big deal of it. Some people do not want others to know that they have a hearing loss. And so ask privately, be discreet. So, this next tip is no big surprise. And I actually think it's a tip for everyone, not just unique to those who suffer hearing loss. When you're communicating with someone who has a hearing impairment, don't look down at your phone while you're talking, because then you one are projecting your voice downwards and not out, which makes it difficult. But then again, the person who is trying to hear you can't see your mouth and your lips moving, and seeing that makes a huge difference. We don't realize how much we actually lip read day to day, and I think that goes for those who hear well and those who do not hear well. And so, if you're the person with the hearing loss, it's not just about what other people can do for you, it's about what you can do for yourself to help yourself. This channel is about lead your living, your wellness, your work, your leisure. And hearing loss, as we talked about in the beginning, impacts so many aspects of our lives. And if you don't take charge of your hearing, you're the person who's going to suffer the most. One of the ways that you can take charge of this is situate yourself in the position for best hearing, just like those other tips were about where other people can position themselves to help you with your hearing. Y- this is not just about you depending on everybody else fixing this issue for you. You need to take charge of that. And if you know, for instance, I know that one side, I hear better on one side than the other. So if I can't be face on with someone, I will try to, if it's an important discussion, or even if we're just having an informal conversation, I will try and put the person position the either myself or the person so that the their voice is closest to my best ear. My experience has been very few people have. I don't know if I've ever had anybody say, "Oh, no, I'm not moving to accommodate you." I don't. People are very accommodating, but remember, they're not mind readers, so you have to take charge of this yourself to make it easier for you. So another thing that you can do to help yourself is assess the situation of the environment that you're going into. And if there is background noise, position yourself either away, as far away from the noise if possible, or in some situations, you may have to ask if the noise can be turned down. If you're at a social gathering and somebody has the TV on in the background and nobody's really watching it, nobody's gonna mind if you say, "Oh, do you mind if I turn that down? I'm having a hard time hearing." People just don't even think about those things. So don't be afraid to ask about it. We don't have to be demanding and forceful about it, but people are usually very open to accommodating. The other tip that I would say, if you are someone with hearing loss, and I have had to do this, and so if you're someone with hearing loss who's not yet had it assessed, or you're like me without your hearing aids that you depend on, know that your brain is going to have to work harder. That may sound silly, but it is true. It parts of our brain become sluggish if we're not hearing the words, and so then that part of the brain may be sluggish, but the other parts of our brain are just working overtime to try and take in all the visual clues or the environmental clues to help piece together the puzzle of what the message is that they can't quite hear. And so take breaks, take more frequent breaks if you need them to, especially if you're in a lot of conversations, and go to a place just to have some quietness where you're not having to concentrate. So this tip for the person who is has a hearing loss is the only tip on here that I have not yet done. And I don't know much about it, but while preparing for this video, when I was doing a little bit of searching online for some information, one of the tips was take a lip reading course. I honestly didn't know there was such a thing. And so that may be a great thing to do. And I think it is something that I'm going to pursue, even though I have been living with this impairment for years. I am going to pursue that and see if it might be something that I can even up my game a little bit on how I can hear, because I'm surprised the amount of lip reading that I do now, and if I can take a course to even sharpen those skills, that would be a good thing to have. Remember, we need to take the lead in our own living. Thanks for watching.